sports with Shoot and Tour. Football discussion on the internet.
All right. Yes. It's time to talk football. Are you a fan of midnight footballing, Tor? We did some midnight footballing last night at my house.
You know what? I didn't mind it too much. I thought it was a solid product, and sometimes that Sunday night football game sneaks up on you a little quickly before you're ready for a whole nother football experience. So give me another 30 minutes before it starts. I didn't mind it.
Especially if you're hammered. Decided to finally make a break, and I didn't go to Glory Days last night. I went to Miller's Ale House. Have you ever heard of this? Have you seen this?
I don't believe I have.
So it's a chain, but this is going to blow your skirt up. They have the game on a million TVs. There's no SpongeBob. There's no Friends. There's no old baseball reruns. And they had the game audio on before the tsunami hit, and it was over the loudspeaker. I'm like, wow. And then there was the delay for lightning. For those of you that don't know, the Pittsburgh Steelers stadium was filled with water and lightning and death, chaos. And they put the pink back on. They put the No Doubt back on. I'm like, oh fuck me. And I'm like, oh no. It's followed me like a plague. And then Tor, once the football started again, they put the football audio back on so that we could watch the game and hear the game at the same time. What a novel concept.
That's a good win. I appreciate a sports bar that's playing sports. I've been in some where it's the 160th baseball game for a team that's not going to make it, and I'm just trying to watch whatever college football game's going on a Friday night. But Sundays, it should strictly be football and football only on the televisions. I know that the MLB playoffs are happening, but it should only be football.
We went to a place down the road here on Thursday night to watch Falcons Buccaneers, which is a pretty big game. And we not only had to tell them the game was on, but we had to tell them it was on Amazon. And they have whatever their cable service was. I was so fucking mad, Tor.
Yeah.
Jelly.
No, you may not. No.
You can't retroactively stop me. They had the cable up, and they just were able to, on the guide, pull up Amazon and have the game be there just like a normal channel. The way we used to do it. It's so funny. Everybody hates cable, but we used to be able to just watch whatever shows were on without having to go to various different apps and log out of the one you're in. And then, of course, Amazon's interface and load speeds are not the fucking best. I felt very whimsical about being able to just put on a television station and watch a product.
Yeah, I'm a cable supporter just because maybe it was cable all my life, so I'm used to being able to flip back and check the guide and I know you get to know all the channels, whereas every time you're on YouTube TV, you hit the down button and it's an information overload of what you could even between. So having at least a bar that can handle it, I appreciate, even though I still think it's insidious putting football games on like a separate streaming platform app like Amazon Prime Video.
Do I sound better now?
You do, yes.
Yeah, thank you for the heads up. I don't know why. I must not have read the cable, but then when I tested it, it was still reading the fucking whatever. Nobody.
It still sounded fine, but yeah.
Well, I sound like Monk, and I don't want to sound like Monk.
Come on.
Oh boy! All right, I'm getting texts. I got all these texts. All right, so I don't know if we have enough time today to talk about everything, but I'm going to try to talk about everything because that's what we do here in the world of football. Hit the like button, or we're not going to talk about anything. That's the deal we've got worked out with you people. We were supposed to have a rather large guest on today. I won't get into who it is, but they became unavailable because they're a big-time television person, and that's what happens when you're a big-time television person. You blow off the fucking 55 people watching live across 3 different social media websites to do the big-time media thing. But we're going to work on getting him back on. But because we don't have that guest on today, and there's a chance he might still pop his head in, we have time to discuss things. And so I wanted to start here because I think it deserves to be started here. I saw this on Pro Football Talk today, Tor, and the headline is, yes, Jayden Daniels is an MVP candidate. and it was published by the salacious Mike Florio. Little passage from here. It says the NFL MVP race has not been won by a rookie since Jim Brown. Remember, Tor? I don't remember 1957, but it must have been great because a running back could win the MVP in the NFL. Those were the days, my friend.
10 years pre the first Super Bowl. I know the long time historians of the NFL consider it to be one of the golden ages with Paul Hornung and Bart Starr and all the Titletown. But I am a Super Bowl believer, and that's when the NFL starts, in my opinion.
Right. Fair enough. 2012, Adrian Peterson won the MVP. I believe since then, it's been all quarterbacks. And the Commanders right now, if you're looking at their results, they have won 4 games in a row. And there's not a lot of, I won't spoil it for everybody, Tor, but there's not a lot of 4-win teams in the league right now. There's just a couple, and you can't argue that they have looked as good as any team has. So that's working for you. If you are a 1 or a 2 seed and you have a quarterback that's played well, they are in contention for the for the MVP. He also listed Kirk Cousins in that conversation, Sam Darnold, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, and Josh Allen. Would you agree with that list?
I would say he's not far off on most of the names in that list. I think obviously it gets whittled down. I actually may not have Dak on there as the
even after last night.
Yeah, no, not after. Yeah, last night, too many turnovers, not enough points against the Steelers. I know the Steelers are good, and it's at home, and it was a weather delay, but he's not an MVP candidate right now for me.
Do you know who I'd have on there?
I'll
give you a hint. He's at the top of the list right now that I'm showing on the screen if you're not watching live.
No kidding. He should be involved.
Me. You're telling me that a 30-year-old running back that's averaging 6 yards a carry and has 6 rushing touchdowns and 527 yards leading the league. By the way, he's got 10 less attempts than Jordan Mason, who's in second place. 10 less attempts. They're going to run him to death, by the way, out in San Francisco. They're going to lose all their games, and Jordan Mason is going to blow out both of his knees and his hips. And he's going to have Achilles tendonitis. I didn't ever even heard of that shit. And now Christian McCaffrey's got it in both legs now.
Yeah, that was a really unfortunate medical term to hear, just from someone that's seen the what happens when a running back has tendonitis in a knee, a la Todd Gurley. It's not fixable. It's not really a fix. You just hope it doesn't flare up. It's one that you catch that doesn't go away. You're hoping that you got to go and you get the cream and you get the ointment and it's not flaring up on a date. But we're playing football here, and you kind of need both your calves to play NFL running back at a high level.
Todd Gurley and Steven Jackson are both in the category of me of fucking running backs that I would blow. That's a very exclusive category. Jayden, the problem is I would have to get you out of the way to get a shot at him, and I don't know that I can do that.
Get out of here.
My swim move. I know I break your balls a lot about falling down playing football in college, but I don't think I can get around you. I don't have the club for it.
Oh, I'd have to you go back to the basketball background and just start boxing out. I get wide.
That is an ample rump too. That base is still, even though you've lost the weight. Jayden Daniels, let's take a look here. He's thrown for 1,135 yards toward that is 11th. He has 4 passing touchdowns. That's tied for 25th, but that is misleading because he's run the ball in a bunch as well. Only 2 interceptions, and his QBR is 73.2. That is 3rd in the league. They just won 34-13 over a rudderless ship. Do those sound like MVP numbers to you?
I think the biggest MVP number I could make for Jayden Daniels is 4 wins in 5 games. That is bigger than any stat. That's bigger than the completion percentage that people are still very excited about, as they should be. Rookie quarterbacks don't just go in and start completing passes. It doesn't happen. They're all over the place. They're skittish. Sean Salisbury broke it down last week and explained what happens with the psyche of young quarterbacks and how they kind of go back to the playground for the most part. And if that's even what's happening with Daniels, and that means he's just a cut above the rest. It's the wins, especially in Washington. That's what the factor has to be if he is in the MVP candidacy. Is this team doesn't win games. They haven't won games. They lose games. And now he's got them at 4-1 for the first time since I can remember. And it's a legitimate 4-1. It's not some fraud 4-1 where they got by in luck fashion. No, they've picked apart 2 good defenses in back-to-back weeks also.
I think it's tough because I think that there is an inherent bias for a rookie to do this. I don't know that. I still have, if he misses a chunk of time, I think that eliminates him because I think the rookie, the status, the youth, that's going to be held against. I think right now he's a lock for rookie of the year on this trajectory. I think that's an offensive. Could he be offensive player of the year? I don't know. I think that the reason why he passes the eyeball test for me, Tor, is that he looks way more comfortable in the pocket than certainly any rookie quarterback, even with Caleb Williams going off yesterday and the draft pick bowl. I just felt so bad for the Panthers, all the signage and everything. It's just like, oh God, like it's the haves and the have-nots. But even like you can put Bo Nix in there, whatever. But think about, we joke about it, but think about Trevor Lawrence. Think about Will Levis. I mean, think about some of these quarterbacks where they look uncomfortable a lot of the time. And Jayden, to me, never looks uncomfortable. He always looks cool, level-headed. And we heard all those reports from training camp about that aspect and how veterans were kind of happy about that it's easier for them to be around. It's got to be a difficult thing having a 22-year-old come in and tell a bunch of fucking grown-ass men, alpha dogs, what to do. And it sounded like that was an easy component of it. So I think if it's just the eyeball test, you and me just watching football games. If Jayden Daniels had Jackson on the back of his jersey or Allen on the back of his jersey, then, we'd be like, oh yeah, fuck yeah. That guy's an MVP candidate. The only thing that's, I think, going to be held against him is his age and the fact that this is his first year doing it.
With the composure factor, I go back to, remember when he just like a week after he got drafted and he shows up to the facilities and he's in the cool shirt and the backwards hat and he's taking cool photos in the team gear.
Photos.
And he looks like a cool guy. And I'm sitting here, okay, is he going to be a cool quarterback that gets really flustered, but he looks great in the jersey and he's like a just super personable leader? Or is he going to be one of these guys that his heart rate never goes above a certain level, and no matter what's going on in the game, he just knows how to, he's built to play quarterback mentally and physically. Right now, it's showing that it's the latter, that he does have that quarterback gene where he doesn't get that phased. He's going to make a bad decision every now and then. Like the pick at the goal line yesterday was a bad decision. I don't think that it was a decision made out of haste or a decision that he made because he was frantic. I think it was just a bad decision. And I've never expected a quarterback to go out and be completely perfect. You get like 18 for 18, 309, 2 touchdown Jared Goff game a year. Other than that, it's a complete mess. And he's definitely risen above a lot of the mess.
The point and the responding to the calamity, like rising above. I hate to keep going back to Levis. He is incapable of doing that. Like having you got to have a little Rex Grossman in you, man. You got to be able to go out there and throw a fucking horrific interception and then come right back into the game and be like, I'm going long again, you motherfuckers. And if you don't think Lavernius Coles is coming down with his shit, you got another thing coming to you. Even when Dan Snyder sends him a television so he can watch the games on TV or whatever the fuck. That was a crazy ass story. And he's already had that, and he's got a lot of confidence, and it's not over the top. And he's not a weirdo. He's a guy when he has his helmet off and he's in front of a microphone. People like what he's saying and they like the way that he sounds. And I'm sorry, that means something too when you're trying to win people over to vote for you for something. I don't know if he gives a shit about being the MVP. I would imagine there's a bonus clause in his contract that would make him care about it. But I don't think that's a crazy Mike Florio take. I think there's the only reason right now that you wouldn't be saying that is it's the Commanders and you don't trust it. And B, that he's a rookie because he certainly has played as well as anyone else in the league, not named Derrick Henry this year.
As long as the season-long resume is being highlighted and it's not just, hey, exciting new player, I'm trying to be the star breaker and be the one that was championing him as a young rookie quarterback. Like the whole young quarterback situation has gotten very toxic where a lot of people get way too attached to young quarterbacks. They get way too into them it makes them it becomes a personality trying to be the young quarterback guy that's attaching themselves, somebody that attaches themselves to a possible future star, because I think it makes people feel better to think I've been there from step one, from game one. As long as it's not in that light, I think I'm completely fine with the Jayden Daniels possible MVP consideration at this point.
Stroud got votes last year, right? He had to have. I mean, they went to the playoffs. He had cartoonish statistics. Can you try to pull up? I'm gonna read these super chats. See if you can pull up a list. I don't know if they even do that. Do they release a list of that you can go back to and refer to of like who got how many votes and what year for the MVP?
Stroud received 5 fifth-place votes for NFL MVP last season.
Fuck me, 5 fifth-place votes. Who is it? Does it say who's in front of him?
Let me see.
Let me read this real quick. DC Sportsmark. Love Duke's putting Jayden Daniels over. Well, I would be a fool not to, wouldn't I? DC Sportsmark. I would be a fucking blinder wearing silly goose if you don't put Jayden Daniels over in a team that's won 4 games in a row and done so convincingly. They seem like they score 27 plus each and every week. Enoch Boateng, thank you for the $5. Jayden Daniels' ability to learn from his mistakes as a rookie. We are like-minded, my friend. I completely agree, and I have a brand new banner. Tor, look at this. This is beautiful. Super Chatter Coolios. It's a very short list. Thank you so much to our Super Chatter Coolios, DC Sports Mark, and I put him in as Enoch Raise Hail because he loves the catchphrase.
Of course,
he's a big fan of the catchphrase, as you know. Thank you both. Anybody else that sends super chats today gets put into the Coolios. Did you find a result there?
I'm still scanning currently.
God damn it! I forgot who I was dealing with. This is a man who he's not unencumbered by the internet. He is very much encumbered. Very much.
Okay.
All right. It's gonna make your brain.
I'm seeing a lot. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of very confusing numbers. But
6.4 pi 3.14. What are other confusing numbers for you, Tor? A waistline starts with 3. Give me the confusing numbers. What's your Wonderlic? 7.
Confusing.
Let's fucking get it in. Oh boy, 1,200 grams of sodium in a lean cuisine. I know the numbers that make sense to you, you goose. 5.4% alcohol on a 4 Loco. I know the numbers that add up for you.
Oh, you know it.
Oh boy.
All right, I'm seeing it now. Like last year, Lamar Jackson had 49 first place votes. The only other first place vote getter was Josh Allen with 1. And then
that's the right call. They just went on such a fucking tear, and he was a one-man army that whole time. That makes sense.
Stroud got as many voting points as Matt Stafford did last season.
Stroud was dope, but that's, again, if you look at that's a bad one because right now there's no Lamar Jackson performance going on right now. We're like, holy shit, this guy's taking over the league. Like, it's not. You could make the argument that it could be Jayden by the end of the year. You could, because no one's going to look. Lamar also benefits, Tor, from the fact that you look at his skill position players and you're like, what? He has nothing. Like, he's got a tight end and a bag of wet hair. Meanwhile, that tight end has completely disappeared. Do we have any more information about what's going on with Andrews? Is it just that Likely's better and was? I know they've got him blocking, and I think Collinsworth did a good idea last week of highlighting how good Mark Andrews is blocking for the Baltimore Ravens, but that is not what he is known for. Is there anything on the books as to why he was one of the best tight end, pass-catching tight ends in the league, and now he is not?
I have to chalk it up. I don't know. He has been, when I've seen him get targeted, it's drops. He's tightly covered. There's not separation. It's not Mark Andrews bossing up and making a tough catch. Whatever that Baltimore primetime game was, he had like a possible 3rd and 6 conversion. He was wide open, hit him right in the hands, dropped it. And then the balls went right to Likely for the rest of the game. So yeah. I think until him and Lamar get back on the same page, Lamar is going to throw to who he wants to, or whoever will actually be able to hold on to the ball. But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying, but the Lamar MVP race last year, it was wide open until December. And then the Ravens went on a tear and they smoked Miami and they smoked San Francisco and they smoked Cincinnati.
These were all great teams at the time too.
And I think they went and they crushed the 49ers also. And it was a huge month to say, okay, this is the MVP right here. He has put on 4 playoff wins before the playoffs started.
Who are the Chiefs? Who is Pat Mahomes going to throw to tonight? There's no Pacheco, right? And there's no Rashee Rice, and you got Worthy, and he's capable of big plays, but they certainly haven't thrown to him on a consistent basis. Juju Smith-Schuster is back with that. I mean, you got a washed Kelsey who's possibly broken up with the skis, and then you've got Juju, and do they get? Is Edwards-Helaire coming back this week? I saw they brought him back off the IR. They don't have dick, and I know no one is expecting the Saints to go in and do them. I believe it is in Arrowhead, but there is the recipes for a weird fucking Chiefs loss here, where you're like, you can only have so much attrition. I know it's Mahomes. I know it's Reed. They can play defense. They have the best home field advantage, but I just don't think you can continue to have nobody of worth at the pass catching at the skill positions and continue to win convincingly in this league.
Yeah, it's after Kelsey and Worthy. It's against from the game against the Chargers. The receiving leaders went Noah Gray, Justin Watson, Kareem Hunt, Carson Steele, and Sky Moore, who actually didn't even have a catch in that game. Maybe just a target or a drop. So it is going to be my projection. It's going to be the Kareem Hunt and Samaje Perine running show, and
just like they drew it up, just like we predicted at the beginning of the year.
Redskins legend Samaje Perine getting it done with the Bengals and the Chiefs ever since leaving.
He's killing it. He did play with the Texans too, right? He's been with a bunch of good teams. Yep, he certainly did. I want to remind everybody that Both Types of Sports is presented by Dreamstay Getaways. When you're booking your Florida theme park vacation, book with Dreamstay Getaways. Avoid the fees. Avoid all the bullshit Airbnb stuff. Go to the website. There's a link at the bottom of the page, dreamstaygetaways.us. See their beautiful homes in resorts. I know the owners. They're good people. They ain't going to rip you off. You're going to get more bang for your buck. Hell, you can have a vacation just staying in these houses. They are beautiful. And if you got kids, they got Star Wars rooms. They got Harry Potter rooms. They got all the shit in the house. It's going to be fucking dope. I don't know why I'm cursing so much. Avoid all the fees. And if you're going to Universal, you're going down this summer to this winter to get out of the code, go to dreamstaygetaways.us. Bookmark it. Find them on Instagram as well. Thank you for sponsoring the show. All right, Tor. Last night, the Cowboys somehow figured out a way to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that's a big story, but the biggest story that I have seen at least discussed today, and certainly would be one of those 1A stories if you were in sports talk radio, is the Deshaun Watson shit. Of course, again, raise hail. The Commanders went out there and just blew the fucking doors off of a hapless Browns team. Help me with the sequence. It's the end of the game, and they want to go for it, and they're lining up, and Deshaun Watson just kind of turns and walks off the field. Now, the Browns had already taken a timeout here, and there was a bunch of tweets that went out that said, holy shit, look at this play. Stefanski's waving his arms. He doesn't know what's going on. Deshaun Watson just quit on his team. He doesn't want to run a play. He quit on his fucking team. Is that a fair thumbnail of what the conversation was initially?
Yeah, that was the instant reaction to how that sequence was going down.
And I got it here. I'm probably going to get claimed, but I don't give a fuck. I want to show it to the audience anyway, just so they have context. This is towards the end of the game.
They can't waste another timeout here, can they? Looks like they're going to. Oh, my God. It's Kevin Stefanski.
You can understand why the narrative got started, Tor. Everyone hates Deshaun Watson. They think he's a scumbag. And Stefanski has been able to dial up schemes go down Josh Dobbs, Baker Mayfield. They go down the list of guys that he's coached since he's been there that have been able to be effective. And to date, Watson probably isn't one of them. And he looks bamboozled here, right? Like he doesn't know why Deshaun Watson is walking off the field.
Yeah, the optics here are, oh my God, what's going on? This is not what's supposed to be happening right now. Yeah. Ripping the headset off is a key indicator of that.
And look, Amari Cooper's got his hands spread. He doesn't know why Deshaun Watson is walking off the field. The players look like they don't know what's going on. So if you look at this picture and use your brain, you can tell why he's walking off, but nobody knew that at the time. Watson puts his arm around Kevin Stefanski as he passes him. Stefanski covers his mouth, so because all of the lip readers that are implemented, like the Applebee's commercial with the Lions coach. But Deshaun Watson, not demonstratively running away from his coach or pushing him away, puts his arm around him and says something. Is that fair?
Yes. Currently, that's what it's looking like, and the lip readers, I'm sure we'll discuss it a little bit later on the show. There's a big one from Sunday Night Football.
I did see that one myself. We can get to that if you would like. Did it happen the second Deshaun Watson started walking off the field, or did it happen when they walked 12 players out onto the field? There was 12 men on the field, and Deshaun Watson appeared to be the only one that knew that and also didn't want to, I'm guessing, I'm hypothesizing here, didn't want to show the look, didn't want to get up there and show what the play was going to be. So I suppose he could have told his teammates what happened, Tor. He could have gone up and said, hey guys, we got 12 men on the field. We're fucked. I'm getting out of here. That's one part of this where I suppose you can blame him, but this was initially reported and completely bungled in the court of public opinions. And I went back and I found the tweet that started the whole thing. And I thought, okay, I'm not even really necessarily blaming the dude, because if I saw that video, that's kind of what I would think as well. But this is the tweet. And if you look, 41,000 likes, 1.7K responses. So it ain't even being ratioed. Like, there's people saying on this tweet tour, hey, there was 12 men on the field. That's not what happened. But most of the people are saying Deshaun Watson's a piece of shit. I saw beat reporters that we've had on this show fomenting that theory this entire time. So this was completely unfair, what happened in the court of public opinion to Deshaun Watson for that particular sequence.
Yeah, I completely agree about it being unfair. But the Browns, if I'm the Browns, I'm still looking at this like, why is this so unfair? Why is everyone rallying against my guy? Why is this happening? And then if anybody had common sense in the building, it would be, he's not playing quarterback well. He's not winning games. His body language on the field is poor. The offense isn't moving. And we also signed one of the most charismatic quarterbacks in NFL history as the backup. So there's been calls for Jameis since week 2. We haven't done anything on offense. We can't get the ball moved down through the air. We're letting the Washington Commanders be up 24-3 at half. If the common sense man is in the room, he's saying, yeah, I know that this is all wrong, but let's look at why everyone is rooting for this to be right.
I get that. And I think that's why everyone was so excited to jump to conclusions. But just because Deshaun Watson had a bunch of shit happen with masseuses doesn't mean he walked on the field and quit on his team. And the blame should be going to the coach. And I went back, Tor, and I searched X. And if you type in Kevin Stefanski, 12 men on the field, there are tweets years ago about him getting called for 12 men on the field and then walking 12 men back out onto the field. Like, it seems like this is a bugaboo for him. So my problem is let's get to the core of the matter. Stefanski still comes across a lot of times as the baby face on this. These evil owners, they're forcing him to play this horrible person, and he doesn't want to do it. And if he just could get Jameis Winston in there. Jameis Winston, I love him, you love him. He's a bit of a bonehead, and he'll throw an interception or two. I believe he's still the 30 for 30 man. Now, whether or not they'd be better off having him there, we probably all think the offense would move a little bit better. But it's shit like this. Tor, there's going to be people that just take away, a lot of people that just take away, Deshaun quit on his team. Deshaun quit on his team. That's what he does. He's a fucking quitter. And I think we should just give him shit for what he deserves to get shit for, which is quite a bit. I don't like anything about this, especially when there's plenty of blame to go around with other people that were responsible for that moment.
Quitting on a team is so taboo, especially in the NFL, that it's like when Vontae Davis hung him up at halftime. The reaction, it was just such a shocking move. People couldn't fathom it. The quitting on your team, loafing, a player just giving up on a play, that is something that really draws the ire of the fans. And if there's a little bit of bloodlust with that, because
absolutely
of all of the emotion that fans put into their team, and if it's a bad team and how they've never quit on their fandom, there's some of that association that comes in if they think a player is dogging it or mailing it in. And when that happens, it is like feeding the wolves. So even in a wrong instance, that is if I was an NFL player, all I would try to do was preserve the idea that I'm giving 1,000% effort on the field, and I am not going to be quitting on my team. But again, I think that Browns fans subliminally are like, yeah, I want this guy to quit on my team so I can just be mad at him.
They want they're looking for any excuse. It's not like what we do in our political process, right? Like anytime a president has a misstep now, everyone's screaming impeach, like immediately. And I think that's what it's like. And for quarterbacks too. And certainly for head coaches in this league is that Peterson must be fired. Like you go through all the list of these and they're looking for anything to fit their narrative that this must happen and compel whoever needs to take place to take this horrible person away. This also dovetails into that Antonio Pierce thing, right? Where he comes out and says, you're going into business for players are going into business for themselves. These are the allegations you're talking about. Like, these are big, weighty things to accuse football players of. And quitting on your team means not just quitting on your team. It means maybe somebody else gets hurt because you're not doing your job. It's that age-old adage, if you're not going 100% out there, you're going to cause a fucking injury, and usually it's your own. So I think you're right about that. The other part that was a salacious bit of over-the-top stuff was apparently Michael Lombardi went on the Pat McAfee show, and I don't know if he called out Mason Crosby, but he certainly was critical of the fact that he was up in the box or he didn't travel with the team, and he was injured. He had a high ankle sprain, and they went on and they beat, I think it was the Browns again. And he went on the show and said something to that effect and said, there's something wrong with the culture. There's something wrong inside that locker room. And the reason why this is kind of complicated is that Mason Crosby was one of the guys in that locker room saying, you have to hire Antonio Pierce. And ownership, at least on the surface, looked to have capitulated to the locker room and do what they said. And I'm going to go on the record, Tor. I don't think that's the way to do it. I don't think that's what's best for business. I don't think you go to your employees and say, who do you want to be your manager? I don't trust them. They have different agendas. They have different motivations. And, this is an ex-player who was given an opportunity. They liked him. They played for him. But as much as maybe it would be a piece of the information process that I would go through if I'm going to hire a guy, like, do my guys like him? Is he a player's coach? Is he not? I would not hire Antonio Pierce because Max Crosby wanted me to hire Antonio Pierce. Do you agree with that or no?
I would want to get the pulse of the captains of the team and see if they resonate with him. And then I would make my own decision to see. I know that a lot of the times, I'm sure if you have 5 captains, each hire is going to be, 3 captains like him, 2 captains don't. And that's going to have to be weighted in a certain fashion. I understand why Max Crosby would want him. Defensive-minded coach, aggressive. Max Crosby is a definite hardo. So I think they chew a lot of the same dirt. And I think a quarterback plays in more to it than a defensive end. I think there's offensive coordinators. Hey, do you like working with this guy? Would you like working with this guy? These are the people that I'd be polling. But getting a pulse from the players to see if they feel like they can win with this guy is important. But at the same time, they're the players. I'm the decision maker. I have to see what would really benefit the majority of my team, not just for a singular year, but for the next 10. I think that's how NFL franchises have to think about it.
Yeah, I would agree. I just don't think, even if it is a surface level vanity capitulation to the players, I'm not playing, all right, we're hiring this guy. I would need to process that too. What is that going to look like to the rest of the league, to the fan base this happened? Because if this goes tits up, which it looks like it's going to go tits up, it's going to be even worse. The scrutiny is going to be worse because of our process. David Marksbury, $2 late to the show. Hello, friendos. Hello, David. I don't know if you noticed, but you just got added to the Super Chatter Coolios at the bottom of the phrase. It's the group all the kids want to join. And, of course, I changed your name because you are a Colts fan, and that's what we do around here, to David Flaccoberry. So that is your new name for this show. You don't like that, Tor? You don't like my creative?
I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm bebopping and scatting here. I'm spitballing in here, for God's sakes. I'm soft shoeing.
I don't mind seeing Flacco run the ball either. That's fun.
That was my favorite lineup of the whole. Derrick Henry icing that game for the Ravens that they should have lost. Fucking dot to Nico over the top. That fucking beautiful throw. Like, there's a lot to like. Joe Flacco running slower than any human ever has up the field, and all of the hilarity that surrounded it was still my favorite. I'd show it here, but it would get claimed. Anyway, so after this game, the Raiders lose to the Broncos. Let that sink in.
Mm-hmm.
People think Bo Nix and Sean Payton are fucking melting down on the sidelines. They're wearing those beautiful Orange Crush uniforms. Pleased to be wearing those year-round. This is Mason Crosby in the locker room calling out a sports talk radio show by name, which, all right.
I hear these, clowns that talking online and talking on the Pat McAfee show saying, something's going on, and they're speaking for me saying I should be on the sideline when I got a high ankle sprain. You know what I mean?
So he had a high ankle sprain. He wasn't on the sideline for the game. He was in the box. That was the issue, and it led to a larger character issue inside of the locker room. He's not going to say Michael Lombardi's name here, but that's who he's talking about. Interesting tour that he would name check McAfee, but he wouldn't name check the guy that he's actually pissed off at.
Yeah, Crosby, I like him on the field, but look, if you're a big, bold NFL personality,
Which he is,
you're gonna bring a lot of the stuff on yourself. If you're gonna be all tatted up and you're gonna be very vocal and you're gonna be on the field mic'd up yelling, which I did appreciate when he was yelling at Bo Nix and just taunting him. Like there's a lot of things that Max Crosby does in the football game that I really enjoy. Outside of it, it's just I would rather him just be a calm, collected defensive end. But I
don't think you're going to get that from this motherfucker.
Very hard to come by. So I have to take it with a grain of salt whenever he is mixing it up with the media members.
I think one of the reasons why he's so beloved too is not only is he epic on the field, but he definitely walks to the beat of his own drummer. Let's continue with this.
These clowns they're sitting on a couch talking about what I should be doing, but the reality is I'm gaining yardage and trying to get right, and so I can get back on the field. Everybody knows my intentions, and they try to speak for me when, shit, if you speak to me and you know what's going on, then we could have a conversation, but don't speak on my name, you know what I mean, when you don't know what the hell's going on.
I like some of this tour. I like the fact that he's calling out a falsehood, and also, if you have a high ankle sprain, do you know how many motherfuckers get rolled up on the sideline when a back gets pushed as he's running out? Like, I mean, I would be up in the booth too if given that option. Do you think that him not being on the sideline somehow means that he's not committed to this team? Like, that part of it makes no sense to me.
No, I think in that situation, he thought it was best for him. And at the end of the day, if I'm an NFL football player, I'm looking out for me more than anyone else is ever going to look out for me. And I like, there's something about that interview. I like it. Felt like classic football player mentality.
Oh, we're going to finish it. He says, he says a lot more.
I'm the football player. You're the writer.
Right.
And this is how I'm going to lay this out and how it's going to progress through the rest of the season.
Well, people want to hold it against Lombardi that he was only a GM for 1 year, but I had him on my show many times. He's a bit of a curmudgeon. I think he runs people the wrong way. And a lot of Raider fans, he was fired from the Raiders organization. His kids work there. All of his kids have been blown out at some point. They believe there's some sort of a personal grudge here. Problem is with that, every fucking fan, crazy zealot, thinks that the league's out to get their team and the refs are out to get the team and the sponsors. That's just fucking gobbledygook. The truth is somewhere in the middle.
These guys know I take a bullet for them, everyone in this locker room. So when you got clowns that are online and talking on, they got their one day of the week where they get to go on the Pat McAfee show.
That's 2 Pat McAfees, and he knows the schedule that Lombardi has. So what I would say to Max Crosby is I certainly can't help him improve his life. He's done well for himself. Maybe listen a little less. Like, you don't need to know. Nobody needs to know that Sean Salisbury comes on Thursdays on this show that plays in the league. Not that I'm comparing myself to that show, but you're reading this message boards a little too much here.
I could almost get the defensiveness though, because I'm Max Crosby giving my body for the dog shit Raiders.
To a shit team.
I've done it my entire career, and you're going to lambaste me now. It feels like when Papelbon was yelling at Harper for dogging out a pop fly to first base. Papelbon,
I loved that, by the way,
had blown 30 saves and had cursed the team. Harper had given his all for the program, and now we're having this big mix up. No. I am giving my all for the Raiders.
Papelbon, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They're starting Gardner Minshew, and they're yanking him for dumb mustached Aiden O'Connell.
Sure.
If I'm Max Crosby, I'm saying, look at what I'm working with. That's bad. I think that's what he's saying. Look at what I'm going through right now. You don't start picking on me. I'm the only Pro Bowler we've had, except for Devontae Adams, who's leaving.
The story does write itself, though, when you got players that politic for a guy to stay and then they want out on the team. Like, that is a nice sports talk radio nugget to have. By the way, I love Papelbon. Bryce Harper, I got so much trouble. I said he's a douchebag, and they almost fired me when that shit happened. I was like, I'm not saying he's a good baseball player. He's got a license tag that says swag on it on his Bugatti. He's a douchebag. Like, that was responding to that story. I got in so much shit for that. there might have been, I won't say their name. There might have been someone that was fired from 106.7 The Fan for criticizing Bryce Harper during a sports update, and the team got upset for it. I'll tell you off the air, but
a little skinny today.
They did not like that shit. I'll tell you who likes the show. Mike from Don't Sleep Energy, $20 super chat. Hold on. I've got to update the super chatter. Coolios. There he is, Mike Sleep. I was talking to Joe Azer. He seems to think the Commandos are headed for the Super Bowl. You guys agree? No.
The defense is bad, Mike. Still a bad defense. Offense
Sample
really
size.
fun.
Sample size is here right now, and it's very impressive. Very impressive. This is the sample size. Injuries. The defense. I agree with Tor. I think they're at least a few pieces away there. Eckler's already been dinged. If something happens to Terry McLaurin, you officially have no weapons on offense. There's a lot of football still to be played. And I keep saying this, Tor, because I've had enough people that work in the league tell me this. Once these teams get the film in from the first game, the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Giants and blah, 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 they're able to way better, unless you are truly elite, unless he truly is a top 7 quarterback in the league, and then, he'll figure out. But, if there's any chinks in the armor, they're going to figure it out the second time they see the guy. But you should be excited, Mike, from Mike Sleep. Absolutely.
Yeah, typecasting a Super Bowl even matchup at this point is just silly because all the teams that we thought were going to be legit have issues right now. I thought that the 49ers were the best team in the NFC, and they are embarrassing, losing to the Cardinals in that type of fashion. That's not what the San Francisco 49ers should be doing, but it is what they are doing. And we have Joe Burrow throwing for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, and their holder can't hold the ball properly for a game-winning kick with a good kicker. So typecasting a Super Bowl right now is impossible, but I would just be excited, just be happy that you're on a good ride right now. That's all you can be happy about. I go back to I doubt you've ever watched Louie, the TV show, but there's a scene where he's talking with a doctor about back pain. And the doctor basically says, our backs are built wrong, and you just need to be grateful for the minutes that you don't have with back pain. Just accept that it's a good minute. My back doesn't hurt. All Skins fans should just accept, hey,
that's terrible.
We've got we've got a good quarterback right now, and we're winning games. Just enjoy the ride a little bit.
Well, I appreciate the super chat regardless. Thank you so much to Mike Sleep. Mike from Don't Sleep Energy. I can't buy into that fucking Ant-Man gobbledygook on what to call that gentleman. All right, let's finish this up.
Talking about what we should do, and you haven't even been a GM. You're a GM for 1 year, so it's embarrassing. You know what I mean? Don't speak for me. I'm gonna speak for my guys, and that's all I care about. So I really, I get bothered by that because I take a lot of heat, and I could do it. You know what I mean? I've been through that, but don't speak about me when you don't know what's going on.
People are going to speak about you. And by the way, how many years as a general manager has Daniel Jeremiah been, or Todd McShay, or go down the fucking list.
Yeah.
I get the player's perspective of there's some bookworm talking to me about I lifted all these fucking weights. I've got all these 300-pound guys trying to throw me around. Like, I got guys rolling up on my knees. I get it. But there's a lot of people that didn't play football at Mason Crosby's level, where you're fucking sitting there and saying he still knows what he's doing. He's still familiar with ball, and he knows what he's talking about. I think Lombardi's one of those dudes.
Yeah.
Did I say Mason Crosby, by the way?
Max Crosby, yes.
Who's Mason Crosby?
The kicker for the Packers, the long-time
damn,
kicker.
bro.
Yeah.
I got kickers on my brain today.
The football player will traditionally have a tough time looking outside of themselves in a broad spectrum, where the fan will only look at it from the broad spectrum and can't always put themselves in the player's shoes because they're watching the whole team and they're watching the whole league. Whereas if I'm an NFL player, there's too much going on for me to keep full track. That's what the fans are for. That's what the sports radio hosts are for. That's what the guests are for. That's what Michael Lombardi is for him to track everything and make objective comments, whether or not you feel like they are objective with his history, with the franchise and all that. But the NFL player has a very unique perspective of what it's like in the building that no one's going to have access to the day-to-day grind. but they also don't have access. They don't have the perspective of what it's like not having that and just having to take it and make an opinion from what we see from the outside. So it's always going to be a fickle dance. And if you feel like your name is getting spoke on out of turn, I don't mind a player saying that, but there has to be an understanding that it will happen again.
Devontae Adams once out. I mean, this team is losing games to bad football teams. I don't think, you have to have some crazy axe to grind to believe that there's a problem. Now, maybe using that as an example, a lineman with a high ankle sprain not standing on the sidelines, like maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but you're also being brought on a show to say interesting things. So I get all this. My point would be here, Tor, does this Cui Bono, who does this benefit? Like, you coming out and calling this guy out. Now, all of the internet weirdos that love to foment all this bullshit and fucking malcontent, they're all satiated. Does it rally the locker room, do you think? Does it say like, oh, wow, this, we've got a player out here that's going to call out these media assholes? Like, you saw that Torrey Smith tweet when they're talking about the NFLPA asking these reporters to get out of the goddamn locker room. And he said, there's dudes out there that were looking at our penises. Of course, I'm paraphrasing, and it got 10 billion likes. Like, he clearly was speaking for a lot of players that weren't in a position to say that. Maybe Crosby is taking that moment here. It's like, it's not necessarily about me, but I'm also taking a shot at everybody that's causing the Raiders here to circle our wagons right now.
Yeah, calling out the media never does as much as winning a game. So that will never. It makes you feel better in the moment, and it gets your point across, and you are able to be clear and exercise what you wish to happen moving forward. But the locker room will never respond to that if you're losing. Like we saw John Allen have press conference after press conference. I'm tired of this shit. How long is this shit going to go on for? How is it? Didn't change anything until Jayden Daniels got there and started winning. It doesn't change anything. Nothing is going to change unless you have the quarterback or unless you have an insane defense and an insane offensive line.
Generational.
Yeah. Like unless you have it, you're going to be stuck in the locker room answering questions like this, or you're going to continue to have that kind of negative momentum associated with your franchise. So it's just this feels like a typical story for a loser team that can't get right early in the season.
I like Max Crosby, and I like the way he plays. And when you're one of the better teams, one of the better players on a team, you're afforded luxuries. You're able to say the things Aaron Rodgers says, the things that he's able to say. But I also wonder, he spent two and a half minutes with his answer. It's like, bro, you just lost to the Denver Broncos. Like, that's number 1 and 1A. Like you said, like, what are we doing? I think I would hope that if I was in his position, I was asked this question or whatever brought this on, I would say, none of that shit matters. Until we start winning, it doesn't matter what everybody says. Now, he's viewing this as a character attack. This isn't, hey, you whiffed on that tackle and then the tailback spit out to the sidelines and he ran up for 7. Where were you on that play? This is, you're a malcontent and you're not giving your all for this team. So maybe that's the difference. I think he references that right here.
You're speaking for me, you know what I mean? Or speaking about the organization. Oh, something must be going on with Matt. Come on, bro. You know where I want to be. You think I want to be anywhere else? No. I got the shit tatted on my body. I don't want to go anywhere. So at the end of the day, it's just funny. You got a lot of people that have a lot to say when they really don't know what's going on.
Just do that.
You have a lot of shit tattooed on your body, sir. So it's going to be difficult to use that as an argument. I get the part of it where it's, you're not criticizing my results of my play. You're criticizing morally something about me and whether or not I want to be here. I don't think anyone would fault any player on that team right now, Tor, that was having those feelings and feeling that way, or any of these loser dog teams that can't get out of their fucking way. The difference is that motherfucker stood up on a box and said, that's our coach and I want him here. And they're 5 weeks into it. And there's all kinds of problems across the board, which we probably knew there should have been, considering how recently Antonio Pierce has been a player in this league.
Right. I think that a lot of Antonio Pierce's approach, I like that you can tell how seriously he takes winning and takes the sport. You could tell he's visibly upset when he's losing. His track record when coaching, he's keep putting the gas keep putting your foot down on the gas. Don't give them an inch. He comes from the classic era of linebacker play. So I'm not losing faith in him, but the Raiders did nothing to help themselves out this offseason. Coming in this year with Zamir White and those two awful quarterbacks, Brock Bowers is just on the island of misfit toys trying to lead them to salvation, doing all he can. They punted the year before it started. The Raiders were not a serious franchise when they arrived at team meetings. When the preseason started, they weren't a serious franchise. The defense has too many players that care about themselves and not about the team. They don't play it. They make tons of bad mistakes, and they lose to the Denver Broncos with Bo Nix. That is the entire synopsis of what the Raiders are. If you wanted to be serious, you beat the Broncos in this game. That is exactly what they are. They're a team that loses to the Broncos. They'll end up 6-11 on the season, and they'll draft some offensive tackle that's off the team in 2 years. I've seen the story with them. It's the same movie. Maybe they try to get Shedeur Sanders or some quarterback.
Good luck.
It won't work until it works there. And that's the sad reality for most NFL teams and most fans. You can try and try and try, but until you get that guy taking the snap, that's the right one, you're going to be in the doldrums.
All right, hit that like button, you cowards. The other big story for this week, I think, is the Bills and the way they ended the game and the mismanagement of the clock. And this is something that has plagued the league for a long time. Tor is not knowing what to do when certain times are, when to call timeouts. And analytics kind of gets blamed for this a lot, but so what happens is the Bills get the ball back, and they're backed up in their own end zone. I'm sure you saw all this. And they're playing the Texans, who are a good team. And they're literally right there on the 1 or 2 yard line. And what I believe most people would agree you want to do is Houston had all their timeouts. You want to run the football for a couple of reasons. One is you want to get out. You want to get your punter some room. And sometimes it don't work. Derrick Henry got a safety, that it happens. Sometimes it doesn't work. But it certainly is less risky than snapping the ball. So holding penalty is a safety in the end zone. Snapping exchange, fuck that up. Quarterback's got a fall on it, goes over his head, at the back, whatever. That is a safety.
Grounding. We've seen safeties from that.
There's a lot of ways you can screw up. And also, if you throw an incomplete pass, it stops the clock. And then you've given a very powerful offense the opportunity. If you have to punt, you've given them more bites at the apple. So to run the football, you bleed clock, you keep the clock moving, and also you force that team to call their timeout. So when they get the ball back, they have less opportunities to score. And that's all just common sense shit. The Bills line up and throw the ball 3 times. To the point where there was somebody put together, I wish you could search it, Scott Hansen from Red Zone, by the way. God bless Scott Hansen from Red Zone. He was so fucking incredulous that this was happening. Like they cut off all 3 plays where it flipped over to Red Zone. He's like, what are they doing? It's like they don't understand he's spurging out in a way that I've never seen him do it before. They throw the ball. They only killed 19 seconds. It's a shit punt. And then Houston gets the ball. They kick the field goal. They win the fucking game. It's your coach, your offensive coordinator, and your coach legitimately handed the game to your opponent in a huge game for the Buffalo Bills. Sean McDermott and Joe Brady lost their minds and just did. And I don't. Is it analytics? Tor? Is it we are too smart for the room? Is it we're going to put the ball in the hands of our quarterback? How about you run 3 quarterback sneaks right up the gut, get yourself 5 to 7 yards, and then punt the football away, having bled all their timeouts. And that will be what we do with the football here and give ourselves an opportunity.
Yeah, if you got 2 big horses in the back, pardon me, 2 monsters in the backfield in Josh Allen and James Cook, that is the play. And I'm sure that they just got too cute with it and decided, wow, they know that we have these 2 guys that can run for 3 yards at will. Let's see if we can take the top off and ice it. There's too much that can go wrong. It's a mess. I would have preferred, I don't know, some simple out route. I would have preferred something up the middle, try to break a zone. If they are bringing 7, you're going to have one-on-ones all over the place, or they're going to have 2 dropping back deep in a deep zone. There's so many issues with how they approach this final pathway to getting a first down. And the Bills should be better than that. They genuinely should be better than simply having a lack of execution or lack of plays. They have the players, they have the quarterback, their offensive line isn't bad, but having this kind of Sean McDermott brain fart, it happens way too often for when it should.
All right, hold on 1 second, Tor. I got to. It will be live. Jump. Are you cool if we do another couple minutes?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right. Kyle just got back to me, so I mean, if we can do it, I'd rather just do it. If that's all right.
Oh yeah.
You sent me the thing. I'm worried about playing the fucking highlight because every time I play an NFL highlight, they're just very quick on the trigger finger for claiming shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, Awful Announcing was the website where I saw that as well. I think I've been featured on Awful Announcing a couple of times, not always for complimentary reasons, but I certainly do like it. Yeah, he's like, what in the fuck are they? Why are they throwing the fuck? It's a very. I think most people can deal with the loss if it's like we just got outplayed or they made a huge play and 1 in a million, blah, blah, blah. But to just not realize where you are and be so insulated that someone should have said, run the fucking foot. Someone should have called down from a booth somewhere, Tor, and told them, hand the ball off. Why are you throwing? And 2 of those passes that Josh Allen threw at the end of that game very easily could have been picked. I mean, they were bad calls all the way around.
It's the trope of good team beating themselves is like 2 knives in the gut, opposed to CJ Stroud just, he beat our defense. They're a good team also. You don't want your team, if they're capable of winning, to beat themselves. If you're a basement franchise, you get used to it. You get used to it pretty quickly. I was very comfortable at the end before pre-Kirk Cousins with seeing a lead from Atlanta and knowing it was going to vanish. But if I was the Chiefs and I saw some crazy shit happening, that would make me feel a whole different type of way. It would make me way angrier. How did we do this? That's why the Patriots fans were so reactive and so intolerable for their whole dynasty under Tom Brady, because they expected more, because they earned those expectations.
Where does a Bavarian pretzel with the little cup of spicy mustard and the little cup of cheddar cheese, nacho cheese, whatever it is, in the holes, the pretzel big enough so that you put the cups of the dipping sauce in the hole? It is my contention that is one of the best items to have while watching a football game as far as appetizers go. It's delicious. It's not too filling. I don't want to fill up when I'm doing that. I want to continue to drink beers. I really am surprised whenever I don't see that. And it's got to be cheap for the restaurateur. I'm always surprised when I don't see that offered on more menus on game day.
It falls just behind Pigs in a Blanket with the hot spicy mustard for me. That is just my go-to if it's available. It's the tube meat factor. But the Big Bavarian Pretzel, it's a little basic brewery bar food, but it gets the job done. I always am a little bit annoyed with the people that I see ordering the Bavarian Pretzel, because
what the fuck?
They could go with the big corned beef sandwich, or they could go with something else on the menu. But
it's an appetizer. A big corned beef sandwich is a meal for us normally sized people, Tor. Jesus Christ. I understand you're an ogre straight from Middle Earth, but for God's
that's my
sakes,
appetizer.
I want to show you that. So you don't agree with me then? You're looking down on the fact that that's one of my favorite game day apps. There it is. That's the one I had last night.
Well, that's a winner. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy it. I just have too much latent hostility for Bronson Beer Hall and watching these things just get half eaten in front of me, and then me and my animal friends would have to eat them and close them out. Strangers Bavarian pretzels.
For people that don't know, Tor had an unbelievably long running streak of he would eat other people's food in the bar. They would go out to Willow's or whatever the name of someone would leave half a plate of nachos on a table, get their check and leave, and Tor and his cronies would descend upon it and eat old food. So I'm guessing you're saying you would. First of all, none of this pretzel was left by me, Tor. You should know me better than that. And that hemorrhaging upper portion up there, that doesn't intrigue you whatsoever. That the pretzel goodness is literally bursting out of the side of the thing.
When the pretzel needs a C-section, I'm in for it. Like that.
Jesus Christ.
That's the money spot right there. And I do enjoy the pretzel. I've seen the idea of the pretzel be more intriguing than the pretzel itself.
The concept of the pretzel.
Yes, the concept of the pretzel.
All right. He's saying you can do, or we can reschedule. Looks like that might be the move. All right. What do you think?
About the pretzel or the reschedule?
I know how you feel about the pretzel. I thought this was a fucking home run, and you just shot my pretzel theory all to shit. I thought honestly, Tor, this is like when the Scots showed up to fight the English. If like the Irish were like, fuck off. We're not going to help you. We're going to take our horses and we're going to ride home. Like this is the level of betrayal that I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, I wish I could be a little. I've been a little bit scarred by them. I just
scared.
They're not.
You're telling me you've been scarred by pretzels that you've been stealing from other people, not the pretzels that you've owned yourself.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they've been. You know, maybe I haven't had a good fresh hot one in a minute. It's always been a bad date for Thursday night football, and they're just sitting there. Barely touching it.
Oh, you're talking about you take a skeezer out. A skeezer orders a pretzel and doesn't eat, but then you get to finish. I love when my wife orders the pretzel. She eats the one top quadrant, and then the rest is for the shootster. Fucking talking about here, Al Sal. Where does a fat sandwich rank in game apps? Oh, you're going too deep now, Al Sal.
That would not be good for a game appetizer, Al Sal. That's good. That's good for family shame. It's good for embarrassment.
Al Sal gets listed to the Coolios. Oh God! All right, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss of what we should do here. For those people that are curious, I had a guess. Okay, I'll just tell everybody. It was Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football. He does angry runs. He's the best. I love him. Here and ready. Okay, he says he's in the room, but I don't see him. He says he's here and ready. All right, just click the link, brother. Just click that link, brother. I don't know what to do here, Tor. I feel like I've done everything right.
Yeah, if it's the same link that you sent me, you should have access
to
it right in there.
I just thumbs up to the link. There he is. All right, Jesus Christ.
Work.
You're there, dude. You're all good. There he is. Look at this handsome fella. God, I was freaking out, dude. What's going on?
Dukes and I were DMing 15 seconds ago, and he says, "Just get in here." The subtext of your DM was like, "Well, dude, you're sitting on your ass. Click on the link. When you getting? This is 2024. We have technology. You don't have to call and talk to the phone screener. We're here." So I just clicked, and here we are. This is magic.
It is magic, brother. Well, good to see you. This, of course, is the best in the business as far as I'm concerned with being entertaining while talking sports. The great Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football. You might have heard of his Angry Runs segment that he's done on the air from time to time. By the way, brother, you made a big impact in my neck of the woods. A commander finally winning an angry run and getting his own shirt on homage. That's a pretty big deal.
Listen. If you want to talk about the Sean Taylor statue, we can. If you want to talk about the remnants of the Snyder era, we can. But the true stain on that franchise was they had never won angry runs. They were one of 32 teams, the only one who'd never won it. We got Jaguars winning it. We got Panthers. We got expansion nonsense, blah, blah, blah. The cornerstone, one of the cornerstone franchises had never won. They were the last holdout. And finally, of all people, Austin Eckler, like a lifelong Charger, knee lifts a guy like Street Fighter II Champions Edition. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give it to you. It's over. They won it. And now we can move on with our life.
I love it. Do you have a special place in your heart for the quarterbacks to get a scepter? I always get extra steamed up when that happens.
Big time. I love it. Listen, Josh Allen's got 4 of them. But sometimes there's really weird ones. Like I've been doing this long now that Sam Darnold got one once. You can look it up. He ran over a guy. He didn't give a damn. Tua got one, which is I hope he never gets again because it gets real heavy with him. But I do love it. I also love the defensive guys who make an interception and then destroy someone who doesn't know how to tackle on the return. But I do like the quarterbacks a lot. And believe me, if Jayden has one, he probably shouldn't have one either. He should probably get down or out of bounds. But if he does, I'll send it to him.
When you're doing that segment, are you still? You've been doing this a while now. It is completely embraced by the guys actually doing the running. I mean, it's like a place of honor for the players themselves. I know what a fan you are. I know the type of fan you are. I'm a similar type of fan. That's got to be such a cool thing that you've developed, and it's positive. There's so much negative shit in all of our echo chamber right now. That's got to feel very rewarding for you.
I love doing it. I wake up on Tuesday and I'm excited to get to work. It's so fun. And like you go back like I do. There was a segment for a long time on ESPN called Jacked Up. And it was guys just getting destroyed over the middle. And it was huge, huge hits. And it was really fun and it was iconic. And then it became really out of date and obsolete because the guys were getting potentially injured. Long term, you don't know. So the baseline for Angry Runs is if a play is penalized, we don't use it. If a player is injured, we don't use it. If a player even has to leave the game, we don't use it. Even now, we've escalated to if a player is going to be fined, we don't use it. So our consciences are clean. And it's like, it's one of the last bastions of pure physicality and celebrating that in the NFL. Very, very proud of it. And I think the guys know about it. I've had running back coaches who'd be like, we showed this segment in our room, at the Colts or wherever. And I say to my guys, like, if we're not getting nominated for this award, we're doing something wrong. It's very flattering. I'm very proud of it. It's just started as a dumb segment like 7 years ago. And now there's like merchandise deals and scepters and kids and babies wearing the stuff. It's awesome.
Kyle, Sunday Night Football gave us a lot of Monday morning content, none being bigger than the CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott discourse. Do you think he said jump ball or subpar?
First of all, great question. I'm just looking at how you're fonted as Radio's Gigantor. I'm way into it. I'm not going to bury the lead and fly right over that. Can I tell you something? When I was a little kid in the 80s and I would wrestle with my dad and we'd do like pro wrestling or whatever, and I was always the Ultimate Warrior, and my dad made up a wrestling name for himself, and he was Gigantor, and that's what he would go by. So that's his origin story. What is yours for that kind of handle? And then we'll talk about the Cowboys.
I'm a big fat monster, and Duke's called me Gigantor when I started hanging around with him. Well, I play college football, so it's it all kind of evens out. But I just loom over people menacingly.
I like the handle; it's right there. It looks really good. I noticed that Dukes has no nickname; it's just his proper name. Like, do you have a nickname that you should?
It is, but it's Shoed, and it always weirds people out because they don't know how to pronounce it. They go Ski-Hued, and it always makes my guests uncomfortable. I didn't want to make you uncomfortable.
I'm very uncomfortable right now. You know me. I'm very nervous. All right, so the Cowboys lip reading. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out from a few weeks ago, whatever was that weird hug shove versus Saleh and Rodgers. We spent like a week with that. And I do love amateur lip reading. It looked to me like CD was saying something and Dak didn't even look up from his Microsoft Surface as they were looking at whatever crappy play they had just run. What is the consensus? This is like when you do a poll or go to the phones or something. What is the clubhouse leader for what he said?
Right now, I think it's going as jump ball 4. But additionally, it was right after the interception in the back of the end zone where I think that people could definitely attach subpar for subpar. But I think it was most likely jump ball.
I think it was jump ball, and Dak's body language was like, jump this, dude. I'm going to throw it to Hunter Lipke. I'll throw it to whoever I want right now. That's my guy.
As he should.
That's right. I love Lipke. It's cool.
Not as much as Dak loves Lipke. He loves him more, especially in the red zone. Let's talk about the Cowboys and the Steelers. I think it was Fox put up a poll. I forgot. You're mainstream guy.
I don't care.
The fan bases, when you have to take the garbage you have to take doing what you do at the level you do.
Yeah.
The most toxic fan base I have encountered personally is the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you say anything critical about them, I've been ganged up on by their fans a couple times in my run. Who do you hear the most guff from as far as the people responding to when you have a critical take of somebody?
Well, there's different types of guff, to use your word. The critical take one is one thing, and let me put that aside and I'll get to it. The worst guff, honestly, the most annoying is, talk about us. Why aren't you talking about us? And you know what is so great about it, though? It's almost always from a fan base that like starts 2-0, like not like 12-0, not 2-0. And you're like, you know why we're not talking about you? Because I bet your ass you're going to be 2-3 in like a month. Right. And they always are. And we have the foresight to do it. And especially like we operate, and what I do is like, we are under no mandate to talk about the Cowboys and the Cowboys and the Cowboys and what would happen if LeBron signed with the Cowboys. We don't have to do that. We can talk Jaguars and Texans and Seahawks if we want. And we do sometimes. I don't like those fan bases. But I mean, listen, to get specific about why do you bash us, I've shown a lot of enthusiasm over the years to the Bills. And so by proxy, the Dolphins fans get mad a lot because the Dolphins fans have had a rough run. Like they've got this thing where they're haunted by their history, kind of like Bears fans, where, you know, there's a statue of Marino and like that's really an old statue and they don't have the playoff wins. And so now, like, when you get a fan base that is really hopeful and things are new and fresh, like they are with the Dolphins, if you knock them then or don't pay attention to them, then they get really, really frustrated. Like there's no sport in like giving Browns fans crap. Like they're just like, just give it to us. We don't care. We like it. But if there's a fan base with renewed excitement, like there was for the Dolphins when McDaniel was hired, very sensitive. So I get a lot from that.
Do you when you see Derrick Henry go to the Ravens with your affinity for him and the way that he runs the football, and it's tantalizing, but now seeing him in his full form, like some Resident Evil boss, I mean, it's just leading the league in rushing while he's 30 years old. It's just, for what you do, I imagine it's better than a nice Salisbury steak with some greens on the side and an egg cream. Is that something where you're like, this has the potential to be the best bit that for what I personally put out there into the world, and now to see it come to fruition, that's got to be like, oh my God, I've got content now for the rest of the season as long as this guy keeps doing this stuff.
Well, I don't know if it's as good as the Salisbury steak with some greens on the side and an egg cream, but nothing is. But
short list.
The Henry thing was fascinating because it's like, all right, we know he's great and he's the 2,000 yards, all the stuff he's done. But also, like, we've been around the block a few times on this. You're that old, you have that many carries. Like, you're gonna go to the Ravens, and it's gonna be embarrassing that you once had a Ravens jersey on and when you retired. Remember that 1 year you had with the Ravens? Like, remember when Adrian Peterson was on the Cardinals and the Saints and the Lions and it gets weird. It's like Shaq on the Celtics, except it's not. It's almost Shaq on the Lakers. Yeah. It's at very least Shaq on the Heat. And the fact that he's like, to the optics, to your point, someone that big and that fast and that strong in the all black jersey and getting the ball from Lamar and running that offense, it's terrifying. It really looks like a cinematic villain. It's like Sauron or somebody, like some sort of Sith Lord or something.
Yeah.
It's really scary. And then the problem is, I shouldn't say it's a problem. Like Derrick Henry is the nicest, gentlest personality you'll ever meet. He's so kind. He's so soft-spoken. I met him once on the red carpet, and I was such an imbecile because I was such a fan. I walk up to him like, Derrick, stiff arm me. Just do it. Will you do it? And he's like, come on, man. And then he did it, like, very gently to my chest. But it was an honor. I feel like
of course.
It was like having Vince Carter dunk on me. Like, I would love to have that. And I did.
Kyle, Jayden Daniels, superstar emergence for the Washington Commanders this year, already getting a little bit of buzz for MVP consideration, not as a favorite, but do you think it's fair for him to be getting some consideration 5 games into the season?
Sure. Why not? The MVP chase, like, starts in the preseason now. It's farcically early. Like, someone has a good first half in week 1 and we're like, MVP, and it's unimaginative, but it's just what we do. Sure, MVP would be really cool if you wanted it as a rookie. My biggest beef right now, my campaign that I'm going on, I have taken to the very top of the National Football League. I've personally asked Roger Goodell, a friend of mine, a friend of the show. I've just like, we need to flex the Commanders in a primetime. I cannot believe this. They don't play a primetime game till week 11 against the Eagles. And the best show in the NFL right now is the Commanders, specifically when he's on the field. I just can't believe like that. I don't think people across the country have seen any Commanders except for highlights and maybe some red zone. So it's Commanders Ravens this weekend, and it's on CBS, and it'll be great. And it's Nance and Romo and all that. But like, we need to see the national spotlight on him because it is so special what he's doing. And I've been able to watch some of the games because I have the subscription and I can watch the Commanders game from start to finish. I really, I'm trying not to get over my skis. I've never seen a rookie play not just that well. It's so effortless. It's so smooth. The body language is so good. The quotes from after the game are so good. It is the coolest thing going on in the NFL right now, Jayden Daniels, and we need it in primetime. So we need to flex it. We need to flex the crap out of the Commanders. I wish every game of theirs was in primetime, but we have to wait another 6 weeks.
The word I described him as at the beginning of the show is I've never seen a rookie this comfortable. He's just so comfortable in his own skin on the field and in front of the microphone, everything that he does. So you mentioned, Kyle, the teams where their fans are, hey, we're 2-0, we're 3-0, aren't you talking about us? Is this sustainable? The Commanders' defense ain't that great. They don't have a lot of weapons. If they went out and made a trade for Amari Cooper, God forbid, Devontae Adams, maybe that changes. But other than Terry, you're not out there with, an enormous amount of firepower. Do you think this is a division-winning team? Do you think this is a team that can win a playoff game? Is it something greater? Is it too early to say all of that?
Well, the Ravens game will be interesting. Like that's a showdown. But also, the Ravens just gave up 200 yards receiving to Jamar Chase, and their defense didn't look good either. So I know they don't line up this arsenal and this quiver of wide receivers, but I love the running game. I love Robinson. I like what Eckler's doing. Like, they run it hard, and I don't think their defense is spectacular, but they just haven't needed to be. So are they going to win a playoff game in January? I don't know, but I would definitely take them over Dallas right now. I still have no idea who Philadelphia is as a team. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're good or they're bad. I don't think if they know. And like Daniel Jones played well yesterday, but he's still Daniel Jones. So like, you're going to hop on one bus right now. I will hop on the Commanders. I don't think it's an anomaly. And I say the same thing about the Vikings. Everyone's like, when is Sam Darnold going to return to being Sam Darnold? We've watched this guy for years. He's never good. I just think right now they just have it. And I say the same thing about the Commanders. I do.
It's funny that when the Vikings win ugly, everyone just expects them. They're the worst 5-0 team we've ever seen. And when the Chiefs win ugly, it's just, well, they're the Chiefs. That's all they tell you to say. And I understand they've got the resume, but it's hard to win in this league. It's hard to go to London and not sleep in your bed and go up against a good defense and all those. It's difficult to do the things the Vikings are doing consistently on a regular basis, by the way, while they're piling up a bunch of wins.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get excited about 2-0. It's fine. It's a good job. 5-0 is so different. 5-0, you're going to the playoffs. Like, that's going to happen. Sort of some sort of historical thing, which likely won't happen. They're just, you watch them, they're so well coached. They do the right things. And listen, that game yesterday in London, I think Darnold took a huge shot at the end of the first half. I thought he broke his ribs, at least bruised them. In the second half, he was terrible because he couldn't finish any of the throws. They have a bye week. They'll be fine. I was never a believer in Sam Darnold, ever. I can't even believe we're talking about him right now in 2024. I always felt like you would hear about Darnold. Every coach who ever coached him would say, Sam's the man. He's so good. He's so good. And you're like, what? Every time he plays, he's terrible. Like, what are you talking about? Shanahan, Matt Rule, you name it. They all love him. He had the feeling of this insufferable, like, Sundance movie that all the critics and film snobs tell you is amazing. But the everyman's like, I don't know. And now he is the everyman. It's incredible. That coaches, turns out, I guess we're right.
All right. So I don't want to keep you all afternoon. I appreciate you making time. I know you're taping stuff. You interviewed Vigo. That's a top fiver for me. And you got to ask him not only about the naked fight scene in the Eastern Promises, which is the greatest action sequence of all time, but he's Aragorn. I mean, he's the king, and he fell in love with his horse on the set, and they gave him his horse. And there's like this amazing video of him fishing while they're in New Zealand. There's so much. I had a chance to interview Hackman once on the phone, and he was talking about a Civil War book. So I had to ask 3 questions about that, and then I got 2. And I got a chance to interview Costner once, where I only got 1 question to really just fanboy out. When you get Vigo, you had a little bit more room because, you've got some leeway. But you could speak to him for the entire afternoon. I know it. How do you parse that all out and decide what you're going to ask him? And give me 1 or 2 of the best things that you could remember from that, because that is a very special one.
I love that you asked. I could talk about this all day. If you are a Vigo guy and you are into the Lord of the Rings, dude, I got stuff for you. All right.
I do.
So it's a Zoom interview. This is a few years ago. I was doing a show called 10 Questions where the person comes on for an hour and you can ask them anything. And it's kind of a game show format and everything. So you know how this is. You sign into the Zoom early because you're the host and everything. And then you're waiting. You're like, I hope they show up. And then the Zoom comes up. And there's Vigo sitting there in his house or something. And I'm telling you, like, this is so Aragorn. This is so, like, artful and artistic. The guy is rolling a cigarette, not a joint, man. Like he is with old papers and tobacco, like it's 1922, rolling a cigarette and like licking it and everything. And I go, hey, Vigo, are you rolling a cigarette? He goes, yes, I am. Yes, I am. I wish I could roll one for you. Would you like one? I was like, never smoked in my life, but I would smoke one with you, Vigo. And he laughs and he's like, so what are we talking about today? And you know how this is. Like, you have to talk about the thing they're plugging, and you don't want to spend 56 minutes of the hour talking about Lord of the Rings because it can be an eye roller. But I picked about 30% through the interview to get to the Lord of the Rings part. So I buttered him up. I talked about some fresh stuff and some everything. And then so he gets to Lord of the Rings. And dude, he could not have been cooler, more willing, more interested and eager, anecdotal, humorous about it. He talked about, it's made a lot about it. We know he was a recast as Aragorn. He had to be shipped out to New Zealand really quickly and learn on the fly. And he talked about the first day of sword training where he showed up and there was this sword master are standing there in this giant soundstage, and he's like, here's the sword. And on the other end of the soundstage were all these guys in full makeup, regalia, and weapons as orcs and urukai. And they're like 50 yards away. And the sound guy steps aside and says, just stand in there for a bit. And they have the horde of orcs sprint at him, like screaming with their swords raised. And he's like, I just want to see how you react when that happens. I just want to see, do you run off set? Do you start screaming? And apparently, like, Vigo stood in there with the sword and kind of just, headed up, defending himself as they ran past. He wasn't scared. He didn't blink. And then the sword guy turns to Peter Jackson and is like, we got the right guy. I can work with this guy. And, if you know about it, his first scene ever shooting was the Weathertop scene.
Sure.
When he shows up with the sword and the torch. That's day one on set for him, just absolutely kicking ass and saving hobbits and everything. So he had story after story. And there's a thing online where I was like, let's talk about Aragorn. I told you I had a lot on this. Let's compare him to the greatest swords people, swordsmen, swordswomen in movie history, and how do you think it would go? So I'm putting him through Aragorn versus Maximus. Who you got? He's like, oh, Aragorn. Aragorn versus Luke Skywalker versus this person, and everyone. William Wallace, Braveheart. He always would say Aragorn. Too much experience, too much knowledge, decades into centuries of time fighting. I would always go with Aragorn, and I was in heaven, man. It was like I felt like I had the ring. I felt so powerful talking to him.
That's fantastic. And do we? No disrespect to John Wick, all four of them, or anything else. Is that the last great trilogy? Is that? I don't know if I could put any of the superhero stuff in the same category as that. And so much expectation, and the fans.
Yeah,
the fans are very, very. They have high expectations for any Tolkien stuff. Do you believe that may be the last great film trilogy that we're ever going to have moving forward?
I think there's some respect owed to Chris Nolan in the Dark Knight movies.
Okay.
I don't think anybody thinks the third one is the best one, but the second one is unbelievable. The first one is really solid, and it's a beautiful trilogy, heavily flawed in certain places, but I don't think it stands up to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I mean, you know what a nerd I am for this. Like, once a year, my old high school friends and I get together and we watch the extended version back to back to back. We call it the one day. And, there's Elvish wine. And if you're interested, there's long bottom leaf and all that type of stuff. And they just sit around and watch those movies. I can tell. It is a great, great day. There's nothing like those movies. I'm going to push you for this. What is your personal ranking of Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King? How do you rank them?
Two Towers, the moment that Gandalf leads the Rohirrim down the hill and to the king, and they all go down, and then the light hits. And I just love the way that Gandalf is a wizard, and he doesn't throw no fireballs, and he doesn't levitate. Like, he's just a guy with a sword, and every once in a while you get a little hint of power, and it's just enough to turn the tide. And everything is just so understated with him. And the moment in Return of the King where they find him and he's Gandalf the White and they have the epiphany in the forest, and like you see him, like I'm getting teared up just thinking about it, because you think he's Saruman and then he's not, and he doesn't remember his name. And there's so much. It's Two Towers for me, just simply because I love the Horsemen and I love Helm's Deep and I love the first fight with the wargs where they're shooting the arrows and he gets dragged off the side. I would have tried to ask him about that whole sequence where he goes over the top, because there was so much emotion in it. But I can't imagine. I would be so nervous just to ask him about it, because I know what those fans are like, Kyle. And I know, like, he's probably been asked that shit so many goddamn times. It's like asking Derrick Henry to stiff arm you. Maybe it was awkward at the time, but you did it, and then he did it. Like, who would pay for that experience? I mean, you could raise enough money for charity for the rest of your life just giving that away. That would be tough.
He had interesting takes, Vigo. We talked about the three movies, and his take was the first movie is the only movie that is a real movie, and it's a real experience, and it's very special to the cast. And I said, what do you mean? That's the other two movies are awesome. He said the other two movies were a series of reshoots and additions that were made after the first one came out and was a hit. Now, they shot them all, but he said it just felt a little inorganic, and I'm paraphrasing, inorganic, and like they added so many things. For example, they made up all these Legolas things because Orlando Bloom was popping and he was a dreamboat. And so all the thing with him fighting the elephant and sledding down the stairs, he's like, those are all reshoots. It was back. The first one was a pure, authentic experience of us in New Zealand making a movie The second and third were commercial productions to try to maximize the profit. So those two second and third movies are beautiful. The first one is dear to all of us, above and above beyond the rest. I thought that was interesting.
It is, but it also kind of bums me out because
I know.
Orlando Bloom really is dreamy. And when he skateboards on top of the shield and when he goes off the trunk of the Oliphant, you're like, oh God, I'm popping so big for this shit.
I know. But
Vigo
keeps it real.
Did you get the Barad-dûr Lego set, the gigantic Sauron's Tower? Did you get that?
I didn't, because I do have a lot of Lego sets at home, but they're all for my 10-year-old son. So he's not into Lord of the Rings yet. So listen, we got a lot of Star Wars. Oh, hell yes.
Look how much that bitch costs. I'll send you one if you want it. I got one that's unopened.
$60, dude. You're not sending me that.
I got an extra one. A listener bought me a second one. I'd already bought it. Do you want it?
I know. I don't. You deserve to give that to like a family. I have that be in your will or something.
All right.
Don't give me that. My son and we're not getting to the trilogy yet, but he's starting to ask questions about. He sees the gifs online. He says, "What is that like mountain that has an eye?" And I go,
"Good question."
Son, we will watch them, and we will watch them properly. I'm going to tell you all about that mountain that has an eye. So we're almost there. It's 5th grade. I think it's time.
All extended cuts, then extended cut of Aliens and all the good stuff. All right, last one. You got to tell me about the naked. It's the greatest. Tor, have you seen Eastern Promises?
Yeah, I've watched that scene many times.
I just can't even explain the not because I'm excited to see Viggo Mortensen's penis, because there's some of that. But what I'm saying is like just putting myself, he's one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. And I've heard him say that's his favorite scene that he's ever filmed in his life. And that doesn't make some weird sense to me. Does he like, how does he look back on that movie? Because it's just one of the most underrated films I've ever seen.
Great. I mean, if you like your fight scenes with knives and scrotums, like you could do a lot worse than that one. It's an unbelievable scene in which by the end of it, the nudity of it is not, it's just secondary. It's just like you can feel yourself being cut by those knives. Listen, I think those movies, obviously that and The History of Violence, are very, very special to him. He had a very special relationship with the set, the production, and the director. And that was another thing where he lit up to talk about. As I remember correctly, I think he wasn't as effusive and as open about that weird sex scene with Maria Bello on the stairs in A History of Violence, which is also an amazing scene. I think that might have been very difficult for him, because I think I asked him, how was that? And he goes, very difficult. And I think actually that one, it felt like that was harder somehow than the nude shower room, the bathhouse fight scene with the Russians and Eastern Promises. But glowingly talked about that. And I can't stress this enough. You talk to enough public figures, there's ones who will just tell the stories over and over, and there's ones who are like, oh my God, another Lord of the Rings question. I always liken it to bands. Like Def Leppard is still out there playing Pour Some Sugar on Me. They've been playing that song for almost 40 years, and they're still playing the hell out of it. And I still respect it. I really do. And Viggo was like that and then some.
Tell you what, man, Cronenberg likes weird sex scenes. I think I know that about the gentleman. I assume most of you are following already. It is at Kyle Brandt on X. And of course, Good Morning Football, just the best football show in the world. Right. It's fun and funny. And I'll tell you what, brother, I know you probably hear it a lot. I just got you out of the screen. It's nice to watch football, people that really seem to enjoy football and enjoy talking about football, because if you're in the business, it feels it's rarer and rarer. And there seems to be hostility from lots of corners of people towards the sport. And you guys harbor none of that. So I hope you want that to come across, because it does.
Football it's okay. I feel like there was a time that sports were fun. I swear, I remember this. Sometime in my childhood, you'd be like, I really like watching this football game, and I like talking about it. I see so many people talking about football who are just pissed off the whole time. And that's fine. If it works for you, that's okay. It's just not for me occasionally, but I still really like watching football and talking about it with you and Radio's Gigantor.
Radio's Gigantor. By the way, I stole Gigantor from Speed. Keanu Reeves calls the big Native American guy on the bus Gigantor, and it just makes sense.
He does. I just watched Speed with my 10-year-old. Somehow it got in the depth chart before the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but it wasn't the best decision I've ever made. But I do remember Gigantor on that.
You're putting good humans into this world, sir, with these decisions. Kyle, thank you so much. You're the best. I'm a huge fan.
All right, guys. See you later. Take it easy, Chad.
Great to see you, brother.
You
there
too,
he
man.
is. The great Kyle Brandt. He's pretty nice, huh?
Oh, yeah. Pretty professional, pretty nice.
Did you see how effortless that was?
Yeah.
See how effortless that was for him? He didn't have any fucking notes. And then that's a 3-year-old interview I'm asking him about. He's not faking that.
Oh, no, you can't fake. And I think Lord of the Rings, real fans can't fake their love for Lord of the Rings also. Like, you get really, really embedded with that trilogy.
Why does now I'm mad? Like, why does that guy? He's so good looking, and then he's very credible with nerds, and he's also very credible at talking about football, and he's also completely positive. He doesn't have any curmudgeonry in him, and he's funny as shit. Like, just how many fucking one-liners did he have there?
Oh, he was killing. He kills. He found he found a way to be comfortable with his own slant and in his own skin.
What do you think that feels like, Tor? We'll never know. You and I will never know.
You think he's never ever done a depression walk?
You don't think he's ever allowed himself to turn a lamp on because his football team won? You don't think he's ever done that?
He'll turn the AC on. He'll crack a window. He'll light a can. Whatever he wants, he's cool doing. There's no self punishment just for being himself.
I love that dude. And also, look how diminished I am. And he's still like, I messaged him. He's like, yeah, man, when do you need me? I'll come on the show. No problem. Yeah. Fuck me. All right, go follow him. I love that guy. At Kyle Brandt. He was so cool. I had him on the radio show twice, I think. And each time I'm like, I think I wanted to say he feels like he's my brother. But I'm like, no, he doesn't. He's handsome and tall and fucking successful and beloved. All right. Nobody fucking, you better fucking enjoy that. That is some A-list right there, internet for everybody. Getting Kyle Brandt on this show, talking about Lord of the Rings.
It's a big interview. It's a big, and then the questions he answered, all relevant, all important questions.
Thank you for not jettisoning when I started going down the nerd hole.
Oh, no, I didn't. I couldn't remember. I like the Ents. That's my favorite part when they start.
You should have brought up the Ents with him. He would talk Ents with you for an hour.
I couldn't step on it. I got to rewatch it a couple more times.
I did the bit where I was like, I'll only keep you for 15 minutes, and I kept him for 15 minutes worth of football and then 15 minutes worth of Lord of the Rings also. I knew he had to go. All right. Man, that was dope. Dopest dope I ever smoked. All right. Well, all downhill from here. I feel bad for the Chad Duke Show listeners. They pay for that shit. It ain't nearly as good as what that was. My God. All right, Tor, we're good. Thursday with Sal's. I'll meet you back then. Does that sound good?
Works for me.
You're a good man. All right, that's the radio's Gigantor. He doesn't want you to know that his name is Sean, so don't follow him on Twitter. Thank you, too. Well, it's true. You don't like to cross-pollinate. I can respect that. I can respect not wanting to be affiliated with this show. DreamStateGetaways.us. Please check out their website. Get on our podcast. It is free, Spotify and iTunes. And please to be following us, Both Types Sports, on X and Tweeters. Until we see you next time, friendos, go real long. That's the wrong fucking one. Both types of sports. Oh, now they're just playing all. Now
it's time for the NFL on X on Both Types of Sports.
It isn't time for that. It isn't. It's time down the show.
Both types of sports with shoot and tour. Football.